I've had depression myself. I've had 4 friends take their own lives by the age of 45. And I truly believe the media that we put out there has a lot to do with that. And did you know that a third of people die by 65 and 90% of people die with? So at the heart of what we do is we help to encourage people, inspire people to listen out for the things that upset you and anger you, because I believe they're particularly now when only 2% of your followers are seeing your content, and it is about building engagement. I had about 1,500 followers at one point, and I remember my whole account got shut down for no reason. And I got so frustrated with...
Welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. I am your host, Daniel Wood. Today's episode is all about why some people seem to explode online, build their influencers, get followers, get people to join in their programs and their classes and buy their products just by showing up and sharing their messages. Whilst most people never break through, they don't get through the noise. Well, today's episode is for you. The real reason you're not stuck isn't because you aren't exciting, because your message isn't good enough. It's that you haven't learned how to package it, how to position it, and how to get it in front of the right people. So what we're going to be doing today is sitting down with Aldwin Altouni, also known as the Media Queen. She's a media expert with over 40 years of experience across TV, radio, print, publicity, and social media. She's helped entrepreneurs, speakers, and authors grow their visibility, grow their credibility, and reach the masses. So today, we're going to talk about how social media can completely change your business and why visibility is non-negotiable. The difference between traditional media and social media, and so how to use both together to build influence, and how to find the gold in your story. Craft a strong press release and getting real media attention. This is really, really cool. We've started implementing this into the Swedish Wealth Institute, and we are already seeing results. So make sure you stay with us until the very end, because the final insight is a powerful reminder about how you can change your future. All right, let's get into it. One of the fears for people with traditional media is when I've spoken to people, there are generally 3 different things that hold people back. One is like, I don't even know how to approach, how do I approach them? How do I get interviewed by them is one. The second is, a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Why would they want to talk to me? Like, why would I, what do I have to give there? I mean, I can post on social media because it's my profile, but why would they want to do it? And the third, I think, is kind of the reputation of journalists, that they're always looking for a scoop. So they wouldn't want to just write, oh my God, this person is great and amazing. Rather, they want to go, we found the scandal behind it, and no one wants to be written about like that. So those are kind of the 3 primary fears I see that keep people back from traditional media. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, and they're all very valid points, very valid points. Okay, so the first one was around how to approach journalists. Well, the thing is, journalists are people like you and I, and there is a lot of positive media out there, believe it or not. Yes, probably 99% of it is negative. And yes, there are a lot of journalists that just want to sensationalize things and just want to, they just want clickbait for their stories. However, there are also a lot of amazing journalists and a lot of positive media out there as well that you can share your story with. So the big thing to remember with approaching traditional media is you have to be thinking about what is the market for that particular media. If you go to a journalist and have something that's way too commercial, they're just going to say, take out an ad. But if you go to the journalist with great content that's going to help their audience, is going to help the wider community, they're going to absolutely love you for it. So, for example, you were sharing about how you're helping the environment with your events, Daniel, right? That is a great story for the media, because you're impacting change on a massive level that is beyond your business, right? And that community angle is huge.
When was the moment it went for you from being, the social connection? Because this is an interesting development in social media. If you look at Instagram, Facebook, and all these tools today, it's not actually about connecting with your friends. Your friends almost never come up in your feed anymore. It's about getting what kind of content will keep you on that platform. What is the most viral content that fits you? So when was the moment that shifted for you? It stopped being connecting with friends and it actually became a business for you.
Yes. Well, I started my business in 2002, actually, but it was a photography business then when I was working as a journalist at the Sun newspapers. So in the early days of Facebook, it was absolutely about connecting with friends and family. And then as I started to grow my business and started to learn about online marketing, I
Mm,
realized that, hey, this is the way the world's going. And if we don't get on there and keep up with the trends, then we're going to get left behind. And I think this has really catapulted. It's kind of like gone exponential curve,
yeah.
particularly I would say in the last 5 years, 10 years, it's really been like, internet marketers have just come out of the woodwork. And now with AI, now there's
Mm,
just so much content out there. And if you don't have a strong social media presence, then you're just going to get lost in amongst all the mass of it. So we've had to learn to adapt and change and to produce more content than
yeah.
ever before, I believe, to really stand out, to have that omnipresence. I don't do any paid ads. Now, I'm not saying don't do paid ads,
Nice.
but, and I have done some paid ads in the past. However, we do all organic marketing, and having that consistency and persistence with your message, I think, is ultra important. And
Yeah.
particularly now when only 2% of your followers are seeing your content, and it
Yeah.
is about building engagement. And now Facebook has started to monetize. You can actually make money
Yeah.
now if you produce content that, that people like and that people view.
So today is a special episode of the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. This is a part of our Creators of Impact series, where we try to figure out what is it that allows some people to really explode on social media, and with this simple tool that we all have access to, completely change their lives. So, Aldwin, walk us back to the beginning of your journey before you started getting into social media, and then we'll walk everyone through what a monumental change something as simple as just getting in front of your camera and what an impact that can have on your life. But start pre the social media craze.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, well, my background is actually traditional media. I've actually got 41 years of media experience. I know I don't look a day over 25, but I am actually
That was what I was thinking.
I am actually 51, and I first featured in the media when I was 10 years of age for table tennis. I was a top junior table tennis player in Australia. I represented Australia for 6 years, and I was interviewed by the Manly Daily, and that's where, the local paper in Sydney, and that's where my fascination for the media first started. And then I was on Channel 7 on Cartoon Connection on TV in front of 2 million people when I was 11 years of age, did a radio show at 13, went on and did a media degree at Canberra University, edited the university newspaper, and then went on and worked as a journalist in TV, radio, and print media for 20 years. This is well before social media. I mean, Facebook started in 2004, and
Right.
now we're at a time we have 5 billion active social media users now.
Yeah.
So, we cannot ignore the world of social media.
What started you into social media? So you had this, so to speak, normal journalism career. What was the shifting point?
Well, I knew I had to adapt. I mean, I started when I was editing the university newspaper, that was 1992 to 1994. So 10 years before
Right.
Facebook came about. And we were doing things like editing the newspaper on using Quark Express and InDesign and Photoshop and, programs like that way back in the day. And then this thing called social media started to come about. And I thought, well, this is obviously where people are connecting and sharing messages. And so I jumped straight on board in the early days.
Right. We're
And
talking like MySpace time now.
yeah, like around the MySpace time. Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
hopped on the early days. And then interestingly, a few years into my Facebook journey, I had about 1,500 followers at one point, and I remember my whole account got shut down for no reason. And I got so frustrated with Facebook that I went onto Twitter back then. I was like, oh, stuff this. I'm not going to do Facebook. Didn't give me a reason why they shut my account down.
Mm.
And, the 1,500 people were people that I knew personally. And,
Yeah.
I had, family and friends on there, etc. And I got so frustrated with that I just spent a lot of time on Twitter. And then eventually it was a matter of my friends were telling me, oh, Aldwin, are you on Facebook? I've got things I've shared on Facebook. Can you check out
Mm.
Facebook? Check my phone. And so, of course, you felt if you weren't on Facebook, you were missing out on all the
Yeah.
updates from friends and family.
It's really kind of a two-edged sword now because, as you say, only 2% of your followers will see your content
Mm.
because they're being showed viral content, which also means if you build viral content, you can get millions of views on a post. even though you might only have hundreds of followers today. I have one of our guests on the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast, Ron White, who's a memory champion. He told us about how he went from having 20,000 followers to about 6-7 months later, he hit the 1 million mark because he figured out what it took for him to go viral. And that journey's been absolutely amazing to see. And obviously it was a great interview. So tell us about your business today. What is it you're doing today?
Well, I help people be seen, heard, and known through the noise, basically. I work with a lot of social entrepreneurs, speakers, authors. People are out to change the world in some way. I like to say, put them in the social entrepreneur bracket. I love to help them gain clarity on their message and to leverage their message and get out to the masses through mass media exposure. So we have marketing packages that we do around that. We do publicity as well. We help get people into traditional media as well as online media. We help people get speaking gigs, awards, in book projects.
Talk about that. How do you see the interplay now between the social media and traditional media? How does one use them both to complement each other?
Well, actually, traditional media is highly underutilized now, even more so, I think, as more people have got on social media.
Yeah.
There's actually millions of traditional media outlets out there. Like in Australia alone, we have 1,600 magazines alone, right? So, and now with all the online TV, the pay TV, and there is so much media out there that is looking for content. So I see traditional media as absolutely crucial to build influence, to build profile, to leverage yourself. And the beautiful thing is they're kind of merging together now with all traditional media. They have social media pages. They put their content on websites. Yeah. So now you're getting that mass media coverage. You're getting the influence of having the logo of that media organization on your website or saying as seen on TV or whatever it is. You've got that credibility of traditional media, but also you're reaching a much bigger audience now because all those traditional media outlets are sharing on their socials, on their websites, etc. And, interestingly, last week I was in Sydney at a business retreat and we had the Bondi shooting you might have heard about in Sydney where 16 people were shot dead and 42 were injured from the last stats that I saw. Now, interestingly, when I watched the traditional news reports around that, all the content that they were showing, all the video footage they were showing were people's social media videos, right? Because that was the most up to date.
Right.
And it's interesting that they were all vertically shot, whereas actually traditional media, they want horizontal images. Yeah. So if people were not that people immediately think in that moment to do a horizontal video when something tragic is happening. However, if you do want to get...
Well, it is crazy that in society now, when something horrible is happening, our gut reaction is, oh, wait, let me film this and post on social media rather than, hey, there's something I can hide behind. Let me go and hide there. Yes. So we have changed culturally. I think me and Aldwin were talking before the call about our new partnership with Eden Reforestation Projects, where anyone signing up for any of our free events, we actually make a donation to Eden Reforestation Project. So they reclaim 1 square meter of land for each person, like barren land, turn it back into forest or rainforest for anyone who signs up to a free event, which in itself, of course, I agree, is definitely something that could be very cool to write about. And, with our goal of reclaiming 500,000 square meters with Eden next year, it becomes a big part. And finding that kind of a twist on a story is what will get them to notice. So that was just the context for you guys. Sorry, Aldwin, please keep going.
And I love that. I love what you're doing there because I'm a massive environmentalist myself and we need to save the planet because human beings are the only ones that actively destroy our environment. I think there's a lot we can learn from animals there on that one.
The Matrix quote from Agent Smith there when he says, I've tried to categorize humans and I've realized you're not mammals. The closest thing to you is a virus.
Yes.
And it's just a very frightening comparison. But no, anyway.
Yes, I love The Matrix, by the way. I'm definitely red-pilled. So, yes, hello to all my fellow red pillers out there. And, at the same time, I think it's important to be kind and respectful, no matter what your opinion is out there at the moment. We've had some very interesting times the last 5 years. And in saying that, during the whole COVID period, there was a lot of media that were putting out that they wanted to talk to people about how they were dealing with COVID. And now there's the post-COVID time. It's now, okay, what are you doing now post-COVID? How is has it impacted you, and all that kind of
Right.
thing. So yes, the newsworthy.
So you could take the twist about how has my business developed. So again, to use us as a business case here, pre-COVID, everything we did was live events. We
Mhm.
barely had a website. We barely had social media. It was we would show up in a city and we would do an event on behalf of one of our speakers. And then COVID happened and we couldn't do live events anymore. And because we were doing events on behalf of speakers, those
Mhm.
speakers were now doing webinars themselves. So why would they come to our webinars? Our niche completely disappeared. And it took us years to figure out this new way of gathering the top speakers in the world together, which is, again, a huge shift. And I'm sure everyone who's listened to this, their life is, it's so hard to think back 5 years, right? It's like when you try to explain to your kids what we did before Google existed. And, in a few years, trying to explain to people, how did we do stuff without AI available? Going back pre-COVID is like a completely different lifetime. But I'm sure if everyone looks at it, your life is completely changed. And again, that's a story that people want to tell.
Absolutely. It's a big one. And there's a great website called sourcebottle.com, SOURCE bottle, one word.com. And it's out of Australia, actually started in Melbourne. And it's where actually journalists go on there and they actually put opportunities for you to feature in the media. So they'll say, we're looking for an expert in this field or an expert in that field. And you can just go on there and for free, you can browse free publicity opportunities on that website. It's a really powerful site and it's got media there from all over the world. And it's a great place to look at the types of stories that journalists are looking for now. And, you might be quite surprised. Like they might put a call out and say, we want someone to talk about their challenges in business, for example. And you might think, oh, gosh, oh, yeah, I've got some challenges in business, but there's other people got bigger challenges than me. And this is onto your second point, right? About the imposter syndrome. And people are thinking, oh, gosh, I'm not a big enough expert to talk about this, or I'm not, who am I to share my story? Well, the thing is, your X factor is your story. Everybody has a story. And if you know 10% more than somebody else, you can go out and you can talk about it, right? So you don't have to know everything about your topic. In fact, I've got 41 years media experience and I do not know everything about my topic. I'm constantly learning and evolving. And this is why I invest so much in myself and my education, which is absolutely huge. They talk about your network is your network is your net wealth, right? You get your wealth from your network. Well, I say your self-work is your self-worth as well, right? So doing the work on the self will lead to you being more confident to also show up in the media and to show up and speak your truth about whatever it is that you want to speak up about. Because
So when you help a speaker or an entrepreneur want to get more exposure, what is the first step you usually take them through?
the first place we look at is what are the gems of their story. So we do a media consultation with our clients and we deep dive into what are the gems of their story, because often people are too close to the genius of what they do to realize the genius of what they do, or to realize what are the main parts of their story. And for some people, they've got such big traumas from the past where they completely shut it out of their memory. So I help draw that out. So my background as a journalist, I'm very good at drawing out the gold and listening out for what are the things that really stand out for people. And then we come up with some very clear messaging, clear branding, which is like the foundation of your marketing house. To be very clear about your messaging and your branding, to then be able to go out and share your message. And the other
And then how do we go out and share it? So what's the next step here?
So then the next step is we need to then craft that into some either content for social media, or if you want to go to traditional media, I highly recommend you do a press release. Now, you don't have to do a press release to get in traditional media, but the easier you make it for journalists, the more likely you are to get good coverage in the media, because journalists are very, very busy people. So if you give them good photos, good videos for TV, good content, because they're going to say, just send me information about what you're up to.
Well,
right?
let's break that down exactly, because I think this is really interesting to people. So first, let's define what is a press release. Let's start there, and then we'll walk our way through. How do I put it together, and then what do I do with it? Where do I send it or put it? So let's start with what is a press release.
So a press release is a 300 to 500 word, one page article. You're basically writing the article for the journalist. So you need a catchy headline. You need to have in the introduction the who, what, where, when, why, what is happening with your story. Journalists generally, if you don't get their attention with the headline and the first paragraph, they'll just go on to the next one. Now, when I was working,
so it's essentially like the front page of a magazine that you're just writing for them.
You write the story for them, basically. You write the story. And many press releases I've done, they just copy and paste the whole press release exactly as it
Right.
is. So if you
So
write it well
if
enough,
I'm doing a press release about myself, do I do it like in a first person? Me did this. Do we write it in the third person? Like how's the tonality supposed to be?
third person, definitely third person.
Third person. So I would write about me as Daniel Wood did this and Daniel Wood is this rather than saying I did this.
Yes, yes. In fact, I've got a whole lot of examples of press releases, and I can offer your people a template, if you like, around this, which will give you a lot more information.
Oh, that would be great. If we can share that in the show notes, that would be amazing.
Yes, we'll share that. So basically, you've got to be thinking a catchy headline, one line headline. You need to be thinking, get straight to the point of the story, and then you need to be in third person talking about someone. So you might say Swedish Wealth Institute CEO or founder Daniel says about whatever it
Right.
is you're talking about, right? So you
Right.
need a
Or Swedish Wealth Institute announces new partnership with X.
yeah, or Swedish Wealth Institute is giving back and helping to change the world through this fundraising initiative for
Right.
the planet, helping to
Yeah.
save trees, etc., with everyone that comes along, and why this is so important. And then you mentioned some stats about what is going on with environmental degradation, about how much of the forest have we already cleared in the world, and if we
Yeah.
don't do
And
something
how
about this,
quickly is it being cut down? Is this the scary stat is we
yes,
expect to reclaim 500,000 square meters next year, which is really cool when you say it that way. But then when
yes,
you realize that compensates for 16 seconds of
yes.
what will be cut down next year at the rate, it's truly terrifying.
Yes, absolutely. So media loves statistics like that as well. Okay, so for example, we did our 19th annual Animal Action event this year, and the headline was Animal Action Film Festival aims to save wildlife. Okay, and then
Mm.
the intro was the 19th annual Animal Action event, the Animal Action Film Festival will be at Currumbinara on October 5 to inspire conservation of our wildlife and the environment. Okay, and then it
Right.
goes on from there. So just straight to the point. The next paragraph is the short film festival speaker panel will celebrate beautiful and iconic wildlife, marine life, and animal species during World Animal Week from October 1 to 7. So that's also good if you can tie it in with something like World
Yeah.
Animal Week or
Yeah.
Environmental Protection Day, or something like that. For those that do things around mental health, there's things like Are You Okay Day or Mental
Right.
Health Week, or things like that is also really powerful. And then you come
Right.
in.
So, like when we do our Empowered Women event, we time it to International Women's Day, for example.
Yes, exactly. So that sort of thing is great as well. So if you have something timely in the press release where you're pointing to a date, that is absolutely crucial, I believe, because otherwise your stories can get put on hold and put on hold and put on hold, because
Right.
anything that's timely will take precedence. And then
Of course.
if a big event happens, like say, well, like the for example, when the Bondi shooting happened last
Mm.
week, all the news headlines were Bondi shooting. So any other news that was scheduled for that time would have got put on the back burner, right? But the
Right.
next preference would have been, after the Bondi shooting, would have been anything with a date on it that was going to expire after that event.
Mm.
So with yourself, Daniel, running all these events, you have dates continually that you're promoting events for certain dates. So you could just tweak your press release
Well,
each
so
time potentially for your different
that
events.
is an interesting question, though, because there we get to the other point you made earlier about it can't be too commercial. So how
Well,
do we keep it like this is our event and we're obviously sending this press release because we want you to promote our event, but we're putting a twist on it so you don't feel like you are. Like, where is that balance?
Well, your event is free, which is a big bonus for you, and you're helping to
Right.
empower people to live empowered lives, to be more financially
Right.
secure
And we have the Saving the Earth, and so we're hitting these free and it's charity and so on. Okay.
and charity. And you could also look at, okay, by improving the quality of people's lives, what is that going to do for families? How is that going to help save
Right.
families if they don't have a lot of arguments over money, which is what a lot of people
Right.
divorce over, is money issues, right? So if you could say,
Right.
okay, now we've got 60% divorce rates across the world, and we're out to help stop that by helping to
Right.
improve.
And 70% of divorces or whatever it is because of money issues.
Yes,
And if we could solve 50% of those, then divorce rates would go down by 20%.
exactly. So that kind of thing is gold, because you're looking at the wider community. How are you helping the wider community with what you do?
Right.
It's not all about you.
Right.
And then, by the way,
And so
and
and so sorry, this question here is obviously we've already mapped multiple messages we could do around our events. Would
Yes.
we do that as like multiple different press releases, or would we try to put it all into one like ultimate press release?
Well, there's two ways you can do your media send outs, right? You've got the scattergun approach, which is basically you do one press release that's kind of generic, that's a bit of an overall view press release, and you get it out to a whole lot of outlets at once. And then the next way is a shotgun approach, where you target specific media with your press release. Okay, so
Right.
if you were targeting, say, an entrepreneur magazine, for example, or a business magazine, you could say, 60% of business people end in divorce, and that actually affects their businesses
Right. Their
because
business and careers. And
you just
yeah.
target it specifically for that particular media. But I always start with one general press release, get it out to a heap of places, and then I can just tweak it slightly with most of the same, because the press release is mostly the same. You're just tweaking the
Right.
intro you're just tweaking the angle on it
Tweaking the
slightly.
title and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
tweak it slightly for the different media. So that's the way you could do that.
Okay. And what else should we include? You said photos, videos, like what do we need to have in there?
Well, press release is no more than one page. You want to keep it nice and
Yep.
succinct. You can see examples on my website, which we'll pop the link in there, which is
Yep.
the AA.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes so you guys can click down there.
Yeah, click down there and see all the press releases. You need some quotes about why this is important to you. So you want to show the passion of why you're passionate about this.
Right. So, do we use quotes from ourselves, or do we also go out and like quote scientists who say, this is how much? Like how quotey should it be?
You could do a bit of both. In our press release, for example, around the Animal Action Film Festival, we've got a quote from the filmmaker, which is, "These films show the beauty of life of our planet, but also we can't ignore the fact that they also raise the truth about what is affecting the survival of many of nature's wonderful inhabitants," right? And then we
Mm,
talk about, we're talking about ecosystems, the high levels of marine deaths, polluted rivers, deforestation, uncontrolled corporate plans, and the demise of environmental laws and standards. So there's some hard hitting quotes by the filmmaker,
right,
but also you
right.
could include something wider
Yeah.
than that.
Well, say if we wanted to include that quote in our press release because it could
Hmm.
be relevant, would we need to go and ask permission, or is that because it's in the public sphere now, can we just use that?
If it's in the public sphere, it's usually okay just to if you're using it exactly as it is and you're attributing it to someone, if you put their
Yeah.
name on there, normally it's not a problem because it's already in the public space.
Right.
But if you're going to be, if you see something on a video and you think, "Oh, I want to quote that person from a video or something," then I would just check in with that person and see if it's okay
Right.
in that case. But if it's already in written form online, then I'd say that would be fine. That would
Right.
be fine
As
to
long
use.
as you take it in full and don't do any edits, you're actually doing the correct quote.
Quote it
All
exactly
right.
as.
So we want a great title. We
Yes.
want a great article and with a lot of statistics and quotes and details, but still only 300 to 400 words, so we don't go wild on a too long.
Yes. Yes.
And then we wanted photos. What kind of photos are we talking?
Yeah. Now, at the end of the press release, too, very important is to put a link to a website. And then at the
Right.
bottom of that, put media contact only. And the media contact only is very important to have a phone number there. Okay. If you don't have, because media sometimes when they want to interview someone, if they want more
Right.
information, they want to get onto them straight away. So you might not want your mobile number to
Right.
be out to the mass public, but you might want one of the journalists to contact you directly. So that's where you put media contact only.
Right. So you make that clear that this is for media contact only. That way they know they shouldn't put this in the article.
That's right. And at the end of the actual story part of it, you put ends on it. So you put ENDS, which shows end of the press release. Under that is
Right.
media contact only. And then you put your
Right.
name and your phone number. If you have
And
times
email
that
and all that. Yeah.
if you have times that are best for people to contact you, then that's great. And now when
Can you
send,
drop like a Calendly link in there? Is that a reasonable
no,
thing to do? No?
no, I wouldn't put a Calendly link. No, not in a press
No.
release. So what I would do say you're approaching your local journalist in your local newspaper. Now this is the
Yeah.
easiest media you're going to get is your local media. So going out to your local newspapers and your local radio stations, ideally community radio stations, and you say which area you're from. So you say you're from the local
Yeah.
suburb because they're always looking for local people doing great things. You say you're
Yeah.
from the local suburb. You might call up your local media and say, we've got this great thing happening. Who is the best journalist to talk to about this? And so, because you've got to go through the front person, right? Now, they might say, Sue Smith is the best person to talk to, but she's not here at the moment. So then you say, can I have her direct phone number, please, and her direct email address? And then you email the press release directly to Sue Smith. And the way you do it is you don't put it as an attachment. You put the headline into the subject line there, and you copy and paste the press release into the body of the email, because the less clicks and things you put through, the better for journalists, because you just give them the quicker it is to get through them. Plus, sometimes when you put attachments originally in the first email, sometimes they'll bounce with media. So
they
you
get caught in spam.
So what I often do is I say, if you want high definition photos and video, send me an email or respond to this.
Okay, so you don't actually include the photos and video in the initial send.
No, because it may bounce and go to spam because it's an attachment. So I don't put any attachment initially.
And so what kind of photos would you send them? Like, I'm thinking now, like our events, would you send the banner of the event, or is that way too commercial?
No.
What kind of...
Yeah, you wouldn't send the banner of the event. No, you'd send a photo of you, for example, maybe with someone, a representative from the environmental group that you're supporting, or it could be you in nature with someone, or with someone from the environmental group, or you on a block of land that's been cleared, showing the devastation. So we want to connect with you as a person. We don't want to be seeing banners or anything like that. We want a photo.
Right. So it's not technically the company we're sending pictures of. It's the leaders of the company in different relevant spaces to the press release.
Yes. So something relevant to the press release, ideally 2 or 3 people maximum is good, not too many people in the shot. Think bright colors, because if it's going in magazine, they want something bright and colorful. So ideally don't wear black or white when you're, doing your media shots. Get a nice clear shot.
Right. So my normal look here won't work, you're saying.
Well, unless you've got a really colorful background, right?
Right.
Now, I know you had Dr. Demartini on your event. I interviewed him 20 years ago, and Demartini always wears, I interviewed him for XL magazine way back then with Roger Hamilton. And he always wears these dark suits, right? But the photos I got of him at the time was he was here on the Gold Coast in a high-rise building in Broadbeach, which was one of his locations where he lived at the time. And that's when he was back in the Athena Star Woman days, when he was with Athena before she died of cancer. But anyway, so he had a dark suit on, but I got a photo of him with the big blue background, the skyline of the Gold Coast. So in that case, it's okay to wear a dark color, but you want to be thinking colorful. So
because he then contrasts to the background, which creates extra power in it.
Yes, which was a great shot, right? So you don't want to go black, white. You want some bright colors in there. And so if your branding is a dark color, that's what you want to be thinking. What's a colorful background? What's an interesting background? Think interesting photos. The better your photos are, the more likely you're going to get a good run. And we call these pic stories. We used to call these pic stories or photo stories in traditional media, is when you have a good photo but an average story, you'll get a really good run because you have a great visual for the audience. So very important to be thinking, how is this going to be not just educational for the media, but also fun. They want to have fun as well. They want to entertain, right, with what you do. So how can you actually, be entertaining with what you do? So for example, with Richard Branson, right, from Virgin. Now, when he launched the Virgin Brides venture, he actually dressed in a wedding gown for launching.
He's awesome. He's awesome at standing out.
Yes. When he launched Virgin Galactic, he dressed in a spacesuit. When he launched the trips to South Africa, he dressed as a Zulu warrior, so what are you prepared to do to really have fun and stand out? You'll definitely get more media coverage, and it's great for social media as well, right? When you really have fun.
And so how do you then, let's say we've now put together, our whole media pack, like that is ready. We've done the local news, which is really good. Like we called the reception, but now we want to get it out, nationally or internationally. Obviously we can't sit and call every single news outlet. So how do we create this massive exposure?
Yeah, so there's different media distribution websites out there that you can go on to. Now, some of them will charge you for media lists to get out to certain lists. And so what you could do is you could subscribe to different media lists if you wanted to do this yourself. And you could look up, with some of these media lists have got thousands of contacts. You might look up, entrepreneurial media or Swedish media, for example, and then you get a list of all of the media outlets. But the thing is, with a lot of these sites online that do this kind of thing, a lot of them are sort of generic emails, and you're not
Yeah.
necessarily getting through to the right person.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like how many of these actually, because when you start spending all this money, then now you have to have an ROI, return on investment mindset of it. How
Mm.
do we know that it's actually even being looked at, these press releases?
Well, these distribution outlets, there's one that I use called Influencing, influencing.com. They actually show you how many open rates you get, how many click throughs you get from the different media.
Mhm.
And, sometimes people, the journalists just run the story directly. They're not always going to call you. But the other thing
Right.
is, you're not always going to get a direct return on investment either. Now, interestingly, with Robert Kiyosaki, when he was on Oprah in the year 2000, it was actually the
Yeah.
27th of April 2000, 3 years after he put out Rich Dad Poor Dad, he was on Oprah. And at the end of the 1 hour show back then,
Yeah.
Oprah turned to him and said, "Congratulations, Rich Dad. We've just sold you 1 million books." And at the time, it was $5 US per book, right? 3 years
Yeah.
after we put out Rich Dad Poor Dad. So, back in the day, that kind of thing would happen. You'd get one media spot and potentially you'd
Yeah.
sell out events and all that kind of thing. Now it's getting a lot more challenging to do
Mhm.
that because of the social media landscape and because we have just so much information out there
Yeah.
right now. So it's very important to be patient with this journey and also to be prepared. You are going to get some rejection and you're going to come
Mm.
across some journalists that will be rude, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
blunt and they're going to be rude and they speak very fast, like I'm speaking, right? It's a go, go,
Yeah.
go kind of industry. And the thing is, you've got to toughen yourself to criticism,
Yeah.
right? You've got to toughen yourself.
And so how much do you see now, because right now we're talking obviously about a bit of that scattergun approach, right? I'm sending it out to lists of thousands of journalists. How do you how do you consider like the personal relationships? Do you want to be building that with journalists, or is it more about building the brand and consistently sending out content, or a combination of the two?
Yeah, combination, definitely a combination. You definitely want to be building relationships because what will happen as you build relationships, the journalist will then come to you next time they want to do a story.
Right.
So I had many of my clients on TV, for example, in e-commerce and all sorts of different industries. And
Mm.
once they get on sort of Channel 7, Channel 9, two of the biggest TV stations here in Australia, the journalist just next time they want an e-commerce expert or a social media expert or someone else, they will come directly. They'll just call up the
Yeah.
client because they know that they've come across well on camera before or they've come
Mm.
across well in the interview. And that's what they're looking for. They don't want to waste time with people that aren't going to be good talent, let's just say talent for
Right.
either radio or for TV. So you have to be building your
Yeah.
confidence as well in being a public speaker or and presenting with passion. It doesn't matter if you stumble over words. I still stumble over words, right? And I did 3 years of Toastmasters where they count your ums and ahs, and I've done multiple public speaking courses. But the main thing is you got to have passion with what you're doing, and if you have that
Mm.
kind of passion, and you know the story, you know your story. So I also
Yeah.
help clients get over the nerves of getting on camera
Well,
or
of
getting.
course. I mean, in the end, it's all about confidence, right? If they want to see a doctor on TV, it's okay that the doctor that she isn't a perfect public speaker.
Mm,
They just
no,
want to know that is like, can I trust what you're saying,
yep,
Mr. or Mrs. Doctor, right?
yes,
This factual?
yes.
So, all right. So this is really the roadmap to get the traditional media. And how do you see social media kind of benefiting? Like, do the when the journalist gets the press release, will they often go to social media and try to like do some due diligence on the person, or like how do these interact with each other?
Yes. What will happen is the journalist will Google you. Okay. And the question
Right.
is, are you Googleicious? Right? Are you Googleicious? So
Right.
what are they going to find on your social media? Are they going to find that you've got a locked profile on Facebook? And if you have a locked profile, it always looks dodgy. Okay. So I
Right.
reckon build your social media following is absolutely crucial because they're going to be
Yeah.
checking out your YouTube channel. They're going to be
Yeah.
checking out your socials. And they'll be instantly judging you on whether they think you're credible because we're
Right.
at a time when there's more and more scammers, particularly since
Yeah.
COVID. We've got, in the US, 25 trillion US dollars or so of online scammers now per year. It's just going
Yeah.
through the roof with the amount of scammers out there.
Right.
So trust
And
is a
so
massive issue.
when they're looking at that, is it mostly, Are they looking at the quality of the content, or are they looking more at like how many followers you have or how many interactions your posts are getting? What do most of them look for when they're doing that due diligence?
Yeah, they're looking for several things. They're definitely looking for credibility in your topic, in your field of expertise. They're also
Mm,
looking at the types of content you put out. Do you put out engaging content, or is the content you're putting
yeah,
out all just sell, sell, sell? And
yeah,
yes, of course, it's important to promote your product, but you've got to be giving a lot of value nowadays. So they're going to be looking at the types of content you put out. They're going to look at, are you a decent person? Are you someone that
right.
actually cares about others, or are you putting a lot of aggro content on your social media? Because they're going to
Mhm.
be thinking, well, if I get you on my show, are you going to also be sharing some of this aggro content with people? They
Right.
want to, so they're going to look at all that sort of thing. And the thing is, look, some journalists are going to really gel with the content you put out there, and some are not going to like it, right? Like I
Yeah,
put out a lot of controversial content. For example, we have a show called Total
right.
Truth Show, and one of my shows was called The Truth About Propaganda. Like some of this stuff is pretty in your face, and some people aren't going to
Right.
like it. Some people aren't going to agree with it, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, are you speaking your truth, right? And
Right.
are you
So
firm?
I think the fear there is if you truly turn off a journalist, is there a risk that they will go, wait a sec, this might be a scoop? And instead of taking, now you've put yourself on their radar and all of a sudden you have a really negative article come out about you.
Well, that can happen, right? We never know how the
Mhm.
journalist is actually going to report about something. But
Yeah.
if there is something that they report on that is not true, you can always ask for a retraction of that. You can always
Right.
let them know as soon as possible if you see anything that is not true content out there, and definitely pull them up on that ASAP. But you also see, this is where you need to be committed, not attached to what you put out in the mass media in general, not just traditional media, but with everything you put out. Be committed, not attached. Be committed to what you want, not attached to how it's going to look. And
Yeah.
if you worry about a media organization saying something bad about you, well, it's going to happen. I mean, look at Donald Trump, right? Now, even if I say the word Donald Trump, there's going to be people that go, I hate Donald Trump. Other people go, I love Donald Trump, right? And the thing is, now, how many of you have actually met Donald Trump? Like probably very few people have met
Yeah.
him, but everyone's got an opinion because there's been full on hate campaigns out there about Donald Trump in the media.
Yeah.
And there's also been a lot of people that love him. And so what I admire about Donald Trump, regardless of your opinion of him,
Mhm.
he has toughened himself to criticism, and he just stays on his path and keeps sharing what he believes to be true anyway, regardless of what people think. So the fact is,
Right.
in your life right now, there'll be people that love you and people that hate you. As you grow your profile through the mass media, you're going to get more people that love you and more people that hate you, right? So you have to be okay with that. So what I do,
Mhm.
because I get my negative comments as well. So I report, I block, I screenshot, and I get rid of those people out of my life, because you're always going to get your negative people out there that are just going to want to put you down. And you're also going to have amazing positive people that will lift you up. So really notice the energy of the types of people. And sometimes, of course, journalists are people like you and I. So some journalists are
Yeah.
constantly negative, and some journalists are really uplifting, beautiful people. And they're the kind of people you want to be working with. So don't worry if you get one or two journalists that don't like you. You may not like them either. And that's okay. You
Yeah.
just go to the next one, because there's millions of media outlets out there. So you just go, right, next, on to the next one, right?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Aldwin. How can our listeners connect with you if they feel like they want to learn more, or if they want to, yeah, get more help in expanding their social media, their print media? What's the next step?
Thank you, Daniel. Well, all my links are at linktree/Aldwin, which you'll find all over my socials. I am known as the
Nice.
media queen. Aldwin Alternate is a little bit tricky for some people to say. We have different marketing packages we do around interviews. We have a mass media mastery program where we work very closely with people to build their brand and their profile and their influence. And also we do PR for some people as well. So if you're looking for support with your publicity, then just reach out. Just go to linktree/Aldwin, send me a message on, say, my main Facebook profile is a good place to reach me, or on Instagram. And also we have a free global good news challenge every month where you can share gratitude and good news on social
Nice.
media. That's all to help decrease depression and suicide rates. I've had depression myself. I've had 4 friends take their own lives by the age of 45. And I truly
Jeez.
believe the media that we put out there has a lot to do with that. And did you know that a third of people die by 65 and 90% of people die with regrets? So at the heart of what we do is we help to encourage people, inspire people to listen out for the things that upset you and anger you, because I believe they're promptings from the universe, from God, to actually speak up about these things and make a difference. And, so you're not one of those people that dies with regrets. So everything on that is also in my Linktree/Aldwin, or go to the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page. At the top is how to participate. It's free marketing for you. We share your videos to thousands of people, and you will feel amazing when you share gratitude and good news on your socials. And so will everyone who sees your videos. And there's a great quote I want to leave. One of my favorite quotes, Daniel, is by Gandhi, and it's, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." So if you're looking at something in the world right now and you're going, "Oh, I hate the fact that's happening. I can't believe this is happening." Well, what are you doing about it? That's what I ask you, because just even taking a little step to share something or to speak up about something, it's amazing the ripple effect that can have, not just across your socials, but a lot more people, I guarantee, are watching your stuff online that may be actually liking it or commenting. There's a lot more that are actually stalking you and checking you out. So regardless of that, speak your truth anyway and have fun on this amazing roller coaster ride journey of life that we're in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Daniel. All the best.
Thank you for joining us for this episode with Aldwin Altouni. It's time for my favorite part of the show, where we break down the episode into clear, actionable insights that you can implement directly. At the Swedish Wealth Institute, we're always searching for the answer to one simple question: what is the difference that makes the difference? So we have 4 key takeaways in this episode. Number 1, visibility is not optional anymore. One of the clearest messages from this conversation is that if you want to grow your business, expand your influence, and stay relevant in today's world, you need to be seen. Social media is no longer a side tool. It is one of the main ways people discover you, judge your credibility, and decide whether to trust you. So that's number 2. Your story is one of your greatest assets. Aldwin made this very clear. The gold is often in your story. The challenge is that most people are too close to their own experience to see what is powerful, unique, and newsworthy about it. The difference that makes the difference is learning how to identify the gems in your story and shape them into a message people can connect with. Number 3, traditional media still matters. For me, this was a huge insight. Most people, we're focused on social media. We want to build our followers, but traditional media has huge credibility. So when you combine traditional media with social media, you create a much stronger brand presence. You build authority, you build reach. So together, you get your word out there. Number 4, does not need to be perfect. You need to speak up though. Aldwin's message was really cool. Well, you don't have to know everything, and you don't have to wait until you feel ready. If something can help people, if you have a story to tell, share it. You have enough to begin. People who grow are the ones who show up, share their truth, and keep going consistently. Before you go, I want to give you a special gift. We're giving you tickets to the upcoming Financial Freedom Summits designed to help you grow your wealth, sharpen your strategy, learn about investing, learning about entrepreneurship. You'll learn from Robert Kiyosaki, Les Brown, Nick Vujicic, Janet Atwood, Marcy Shimoff, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, and more. And I want to give you that ticket for free. You can claim it in the show notes. If you got value from this episode, please share it with someone who needs this, who's building a business. And please make sure you do like thousands of other people all across the world and follow and subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming next. And of course, if you want to show some appreciation to us, we always appreciate it if you give a 5-star review. It definitely helps us get the word out and help more people. Next week, I am so honored to introduce you to Jennifer K. Hill. She has introduced me to some of the most amazing people in the world. A lot of the guests on this podcast she has introduced me to. She's going to share with you how she connects people and works as a connector to change lives and has changed her own life. So make sure you show up because that's going to be amazing. I'm Daniel Wood. This is the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast. Thank you for joining us.
I just hated myself. I was bulimic. I was suicidal, tried to take my own life, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you name it, I did it. if I didn't learn people and learn myself, I wasn't going to make it. Jay Hill, you are only the most condescending, demeaning bitch we've ever met in our lives. We have no idea how you're successful. And that was my moment of like, one thing she does well a day for a week. So the first day, I kid you not, I write down, she's human. Day 2, she breathes. By day 3, she actually started to improve quite vastly. By day 7, she was